Hello everyone, this is Pooka, and welcome to another deck for the current format here in the Pokemon TCG. I figured a big part of a new set coming out is rebuilding old decks that already exist. And I think one of the most popular decks that's going to be looked at again is going to be these Team Plasma decks. Now this kind of deck has been extremely popular throughout the season. We'll just take a quick look at the main players in the deck. So number one, your focus kind of is Lugia EX. It has an amazing ability Overflow. If Lugia EX knocks something out with an attack, you take an extra prize card. So obviously you have to take 6 prize cards to win. If you knock out a regular Pokemon, you take 2 prizes. If you knock out an EX Pokemon, you take 3 prizes. So potentially you could take all 6 prizes with just 2 knockouts with Plasma Gale. Now this does 120 damage for 4 energy. You do have to discard a Plasma Energy to use it, but it's a pretty darn strong attack. Now we can make this even stronger with Deoxys EX's ability Power Connect, which allows all of your Team Plasma Pokemon to do 10 more damage to the opponent's active Pokemon. You can't boost Deoxys' attack. It only powers up your other Pokemon, but this is very, very useful. Because now all of a sudden, Lugia EX is doing, 130, 140, 150 damage. And that's very powerful, especially now that we have this card, Muscle Band, which can add 20 more damage to your attacks. So let's say we have 3 Deoxys EX in play, and then a Muscle Band on the Lugia EX. We can hit for 170 damage with Plasma Gale, wiping popular Pokemon EX off the board in one hit, taking 3 prizes in the process. So this is becoming a very, very powerful deck, and I would say those 2 cards are kind of the focus. But then you have your other players as well. Thundurus EX is the big one. For 1 Lightning Energy, it has Raiden Knuckle, 30, and then attach an energy card from your discard pile to one of your benched Team Plasma Pokemon. So this can be used to recover energy or accelerate it early on if you can manage to get energy in the discard pile in the opening turns, and then attach extra energy while doing damage with this attack. And the damage adds up very quickly when you do have those Deoxys EX in play and also Muscle Band. So Thundurus EX really is kind of the glue that holds this deck together. Now, a card that's become a lot more popular with the Pokemon Catcher nerf to a coin flip has been Snorlax. It has the ability Block. As long as this is active, your opponent's active Pokemon can't retreat. So this can be useful to lock things in place. Some decks don't play a lot of switching cards, so you can take advantage of that and just kind of block something in place. And also, Team Pact is a very good attack. It is super expensive, 5 energy, but it does 30 times the number of Team Plasma Pokemon you have in play. As I get a challenge. Oops, sorry. I wish there was some way to kind of go on Do Not Disturb mode, but I guess that does not exist. But we have Team Pact, 30 times the number of Team Plasma Pokemon you have in play. Alright, so this can do 180 damage if you have 6 Team Plasma Pokemon in play. You can make it even easier if you have Deoxys EX in play. It's basically plus 40 damage for each Deoxys you do have in play. So this can be a very powerful attacker, or it can be very strong just to block and keep something in place. Now the other 2 cards we're going to look at are very important as well. Number 1 is Genesect EX. We know Genesect EX is a big attacker. Virizion Genesect has been a very, very strong deck, but we're just going to use it for its ability, which has become very good since Pokemon Catcher changed, and that's Red Signal. So when you attach a Plasma Energy to Genesect EX from your hand, it's basically Pokemon Catcher. You get to pick one of your opponent's Pokemon off the bench and bring it to the active spot, so you can target down which Pokemon you want to go after. This is really nice with things like Lugia EX to, pick off weakened Pokemon and get those knockouts for big 2 or 3 prize turns with Plasma Gale. The last card might seem a little strange, and that is Mewtwo EX. It doesn't seem to fit in this deck at all. But the reason it's here is that, well, all of your other Pokemon are Team Plasma Pokemon. And the card Silver Mirror does exist. It's a tool. If it's attached to your opponent's Pokemon, they cannot be affected by Team Plasma Pokemon. In combination with things like Dragonite's Deafen, which prevents you from playing item cards like Tool Scrapper, you could just be locked out of a game by Silver Mirror, or if you just run out of Tool Scrapper, it can happen. So we'd like to have one non-Team Plasma Pokemon in the deck. And we're going to choose Mewtwo EX for this. You could choose a lot of different Pokemon, but Mewtwo is the simplest since it only takes colorless energy with X-Ball. So we got one of those as well. Otherwise, it's a very standard Plasma deck, I feel. There's not too much else to highlight here. We do have 4 Prism Energy since when it's on your basic Pokemon, it provides every type. And everything is a basic Pokemon. 4 Plasma Energy, since you get so many special effects from this card. 4 double colorless energy, since you're attacking with Lugia EX and Snorlax so often, and even Mewtwo EX. And then we have 2 basic lightning energy. This may seem strange, but this deck is very weak to Enhanced Hammer, discarding your special energy. So it's nice to have some basic energy in the deck as well, to power up Thundurus EX's Raiden Knuckle. So those are the energy. We run a lot of those since our attack costs are pretty high. Otherwise, just a lot of supporters. We have 4, 8, 11, 14 draw supporters or search supporters, if you want to put Skyla in that category. And then 2 Shadow Triad as well. This is a very versatile card. Very good. Put a Team Plasma card from your discard pile into your hand. So anything that says Team Plasma on it, you can put it back in your hand. Heck, if you have another Shadow Triad in your discard pile, you can take another Shadow Triad and just do an endless cycle of Shadow Triad every turn. There's no real point in that, but you could do it if you really wanted to. But we have things, all of your Team Plasma Pokemon, you can get them back. Your Plasma Energy, you can get them back. Chorus Machine is another important card. We play 3 of these. Search your deck for a Plasma Energy card and attach it to one of your Team Plasma Pokemon. This is very good energy acceleration. We have Team Plasma Ball. 2 of these. Search for a Team Plasma Pokemon. Put it into your hand. Very powerful card. And what else? Even Chorus here is a Team Plasma card, which you can get back with Shadow Triad. So there's a lot of synergy in this deck. And we also have Frozen City on top of all that. Stadium card. Whenever a player attaches an energy to a Pokemon that's not a Team Plasma Pokemon, they take 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. So this is very nice. I feel like pretty much every deck needs a Stadium card at this point when there's so many strong Stadium cards out there. So we have 2 Frozen City. Other big thing is we have a lot of switching effects. I would say this deck needs at least 4 of them. We have 2 Switch, 1 Escape Rope, and then 1 Float Stone. Since so many things have heavy retreat costs in this deck, Deoxys, Mewtwo, and Lugia all have a 2 retreat cost, and big old Snorlax has a 4 retreat cost. That's pretty appropriate, though. And then we also have 2 Tool Scrappers, since this deck really does get hit hard by a lot of Pokemon tools. You could even justify running 3 in this deck, possibly even 4, depending on how many Silver Mirror are out there. You really don't want to commit too many spots to this card, since it can be worthless sometimes. 2 seems like a good number to just kind of give yourself a shot against most decks. And then our ace spec of choice is actually going to be Scramble Switch, a card we don't see too often. Allows you to switch your active Pokemon with a bench Pokemon and then move all the energy from that active Pokemon to the new one. This is really nice to power things up and just kind of say surprise. You can power up a Lugia out of nowhere if you got some energy sitting around. You can power up a Snorlax. It's just an extremely strong card, and it just makes every energy on your field a threat to be moved somewhere else. So, that wraps up the deck. Of course, I do have a game I played with it as well, so we'll get to see it in action and see how this bad boy works. This is a very tried and tested kind of a deck. It's been around for a while. It's just, is it going to keep up with the new cards coming out every set? My guess would be yes, but I guess we will see. So I see my opponent has mulliganed, and there are Dark Energy, so we can pretty quickly assess that it's probably going to have something with Sableye and Darkrai and probably Yveltal EX. So it's something we're going to have to look for. And I suppose we'll see what happens in this game. Right off the bat, we do see an N from my opponent. So we're going to both shuffle in and draw 6. And all I see is that Sableye. And a pass. Oh boy. So now I got to decide. I'm certainly going to attach the Prism Energy to the active. And now if I get another Deoxys EX and then a Muscle Band, I can use Raiden Knuckle for 70 on the first turn and win the game right here. I'm going to save my Frozen City because I want to get rid of any Verbank City gyms that come out. And off of the N, we whiff big time. And just muster up a Raiden Knuckle for 40 damage. Not the greatest start, but it could be worse. And then we do see a Darkrai EX. We'll have to see if this is combined with Garbodor as well. Garbodor is a card that hurts this deck pretty badly. You do rely on abilities a lot. But you can kind of outspeed these decks most of the time. Well, not most of the time, but if you kind of beat them to the punch, keep knocking out Sableye early on, put them on the back foot, maybe taking away your abilities doesn't matter as much. But there's a lot of stuff that can happen in this kind of a game. And we do see an Ultra Ball for a Sableye and a Dark Patch onto the Sableye. And a second Dark Patch onto the Darkrai. And then a switch. So wow, my opponent has played his hand down to 0 cards here. And that's a pretty good sign for me not to play my N. And we don't want to play Colress either. This is going to be a painful Juniper, discarding a Tool Scrapper and a Colress, but certainly worth it in this spot, since my opponent clearly has nothing. Its 2 cards are Switch and Dark Patch. And once again, I don't draw too much good stuff. We did get an energy in the discard pile, so we can start to power up that Snorlax a little bit. But I did not draw many good things there. Just 4 supporters. You would hope to get like a Deoxys out here, some other stuff, but looks like that is not the case here. And we'll have to see what happens from here. So we see another Junk Hunt since my opponent really can't do much else. And I'm probably going to play a Skyla here, start searching for some new Pokemon, get them into play. So we'll play a Team Plasma Ball here. It's an interesting choice on what to go for, honestly. Could go for a Lugia EX, start to power that up. Could go for a Deoxys EX, just to keep the pressure on, keep doing more damage. And I think we're just going to power up Snorlax a little bit more, and then get a Raiden Knuckle for 50 now, and take the knockout on that Sableye. So things are definitely looking up for me right now. We have a 1 prize lead. My opponent doesn't seem to have much of anything. We got a lot of energy in play. Snorlax can team pact a Darkrai for a 1-hit knockout. That is very possible. And we see a retreat into the Sableye. So we'll probably just see another Junk Hunt here. We're going to see an Ultra Ball first. I wonder what that's going to go for. Perhaps another Sableye, but no, it's actually a Trubbish. So this is a Darkrai Garbodor deck, and there we see an N. So my opponent finally top-decked a supporter and got out of this. And boy, my hand looks awful. It was looking a lot better before. Now we got a lot of shiny stuff, but nothing really good. With an energy, this could be fine, but this not looking so good. And we see a Hypnotoxic Laser with a Verbank City Gym. And I get put to sleep. If I wake up, I think I'll be fine. We can just Raiden Knuckle, take another prize. We'll still be in very, very good position here. Hypnotoxic Laser continues to be the bane of my existence, as it pretty much has been since it came out. Alright, so now I gotta decide, do I want a Max Potion here? And I'm gonna say no. And I don't really want to Ultra Ball any of these cards away either. So it's kind of just a bad position to be in. And if my opponent can pull off a Night Spear, knock out Thunderous EX, I'm going to have to make a very tough decision on who to promote next turn, given the cards in my hand. If I top deck an energy, I can Team Pact, knock out the Darkrai, because I can search for another Team Plasma Pokemon, And then with the Muscle Band, we can get enough damage to knock out Darkrai EX in one hit. If I don't draw an energy, I could just lose my Snorlax and all of my energy, and that would be absolutely devastating. So I think this next turn might be a make or break turn. I do have to make the decision on who to promote. Taking out that Darkrai would be such a big win. I think that would almost just kind of end the game. Take 2 prizes, wipe off the Darkrai, and I think 2 Dark Patch are gone already, so my opponent would be in tons of trouble. We also have a Tool Scrapper to get rid of the tool on Garbodor, so block would be in effect. So all sorts of things would go well if I top deck the energy here. And this just might be a risk worth going for. I could also just send up Lugia and kind of just hope to draw a supporter eventually. But I feel like with this kind of a hand, we just need to take a risk. I mean, there's a lot of ways I can draw an energy here. A lot of ways. And I think it's worth going for. Obviously, this can backfire. And we draw a Mewtwo. So clearly this has backfired. And now what in the world am I supposed to do here? Just that one sleep flip on Hypnotoxic Laser. And Thundurus stays asleep and the Sableye stays alive. And oh man, everything's just starting to go downhill. And I mean, what do you do now? I played a Tool Scrapper to get rid of that Dark Claw. That's really the only reason I did it, just in hopes that Snorlax could possibly survive a turn and I would have one more chance to top deck an energy here. But it does not seem to be the case. We see a Hypnotoxic Laser, which means I went from a very, very dominant position to almost out of the game. This is how quickly things can turn around with Hypnotoxic Laser and all sorts of crazy shenanigans. Boy. Now from here, it's how in the world can I manage to not lose? I discarded my first Tool Scrapper on that first turn with the Juniper, seeing that my opponent had pretty much nothing to work with. And then I just played my second Tool Scrapper, so I won't have any abilities the rest of the game. I also discarded the Scramble Switch, which means I won't really have any unpredictable plays. It's just bad all the way through right now. And still nothing to work with, no supporters, no energy, just absolutely nothing going right now. And we see another Hypnotoxic Laser. And Night Spear is probably just going to run through me pretty quickly unless I can top deck a supporter at this point. And, oh, thank goodness. There is the beautiful Professor Juniper. Okay, so maybe we'll have a chance at this point. It looks pretty bleak, I would definitely say that. But we can Ultra Ball, Max Potion the damage off of the active Lugia. And we're going to search for another Thundurus, but it's prized. Well, that's going to make things much more difficult. I would have liked to get Thundurus EX going, so we could Raiden Knuckle, do some damage, get some energy in play. But looks like, yes, it is prized. And now I really don't know what my plan of attack might be. Maybe a Mewtwo-based Assault would be my only option at this point. If I could get a switch and a double colorless energy, that might be the best way to do this. But that didn't happen either. I did get a Frozen City, which can alleviate some of the poison damage from Hypnotoxic Laser. And now I'm only taking 10 in between turns. So Frozen City as the counter stadium, definitely doing its job here. And now I gotta decide what the heck am I gonna attack with in order to even have a chance to win at this game. I think it might be Deoxys. Helix Force is okay against Darkrai. When it has 3 energy, you're doing 100 with Helix Force, so you can knock it out in 2 hits. That might be my only real option at this point. Just going for a Helix Force trade-off. I don't know. My Muscle Band does get discarded with a Tool Scrapper, and boy, what are we going to do here? My opponent plays an escape rope, which I find pretty interesting. I'm just going to switch into my other Lugia EX. Seems like a simple decision there. One Lugia to another. And I guess my opponent might Junk Hunt here, which is actually a pretty smart move. Because I don't really have an opportunity to put in much offense. And recovering resources here will be big. We see the Hypnotoxic Laser and a Dark Patch. So those are some pretty big cards to get back, since my opponent has exhausted a lot of both of those. And I have to decide, do I want to end here, shuffle those cards back in, and try to get lucky with whatever cards I draw, or do I just Shadow Triad for the Thunderous EX, knowing that I really need some energy acceleration and some cheap way to do damage. And I think I'm going to go for the Shadow Triad right here. Get back a Thunderous EX, throw the lightning on it, and, just kind of accept that this turn is a waste. Pass, and we do have that end for next turn. Slowly but surely, maybe we can come back in this game, but it is certainly an uphill battle. That Absol is looking pretty fierce at this point, considering I have filled my bench with all sorts of Pokemon. Mind Jack is doing 120 damage. That is very powerful. And who knows exactly what's going to happen from here. But I would say it doesn't look good. Down 2 prizes. Look, the Darkrai and the Absol both fully powered. And I won't have abilities anymore. I have hardly any energy in play. I mean, what am I going to do right here? This is rough. Will my opponent Junk Hunt, though, or start attacking? Looks like another Junk Hunt for 2 Hypnotoxic Lasers. And now I have to decide, do I want to play my N here and just kind of hope I draw into a Switch or a Floatstone? Even a double colorless to retreat wouldn't be bad. Or do I just Skyla right away for 1? I'm going to go for the N to try to disrupt my opponent, and I do get the Switch. So that's a big draw to get here. Going to switch into Thunderous EX. And let's see, we can do all sorts of stuff off of this Raiden Knuckle. A double colorless definitely goes on to Lugia here. A Plasma Gale for 120 can be powerful at this point. And now I have to decide, what energy do I actually want to take out of the discard pile? I can take a Prism energy and put it on that Deoxys EX over there, just making that a decent attacker against Darkrai. But I think Absol is a pretty big worry, so I'm going to power up the Lugia and just say, you know what? If Absol comes out, I'll have a response for it right away. We'll Plasma Gale, knock it out. It'll only be 1 prize since Garbotoxin does shut off my ability, but hey, I'll take it just to knock out that Absol. Now, we do see a Pokemon catcher, which is pretty annoying. That's going to catcher out Deoxys EX. And it has a 2 retreat cost. Not good. Now we're going to be in some trouble. But I do have a Skyla, so I can search for a Floatstone or a Switch, maybe, and then just, retreat the Deoxys, attack with something, and I top deck a Prism Energy, which is actually kind of nice. Now I got some more options to work with. And, we're just trying to stay alive in this game, trying to find some little way to give myself a chance, even though I don't have any abilities and I really don't have any tricks to work with anymore. Just basically attaching and attacking at this point, which is when these plasma decks really become bad. If they're just kind of one-dimensional, all they can do is attach and attack, and they don't even get abilities. It's pretty bad. But I do get to Helix Force for 100 here, softening up this Darkrai, and forcing my opponent to kind of do something. If he Night Spears, I can just Helix Force again and take a knockout. My opponent only has 2 cards, so that could be a big play. I'll go down to 2 prizes. If my opponent retreats into Absol, that would probably be pretty tough to deal with. A Mind Jack for 120 would be devastating. But I would have Lugia to knock that out. So all of a sudden we're in position where you can see, all right, maybe we have a chance to win this game. It's going to be rough still, but we have a chance. And, we do see a Night Spear going on to the Lugia EX. I'm actually pretty surprised by that. the Deoxys EX has 120 on it. So let's see, a Night Spear again from another Darkrai would just take 2 prizes on it, and I would be pretty much out of the game. Maybe my opponent just wants to have that Lugia softened up so Absol can finish it off. And maybe he just doesn't know how many Tool Scrapper I play, so he's kind of worried about sending out Absol if I can just Tool Scrapper and Plasma Gale it. Now we do see a Juniper here, and we're going to take a look at how many resources are gone. 3 Dark Patch are gone. If that Darkrai does get powered up, I actually can knock it out because of Frozen City. If my opponent decides to Night Spear with that Darkrai, just a Muscle Band and a Plasma Gale gets me the win, thanks to Frozen City. My opponent would need a Dark Patch to pull that off, but boy, it's actually in range for me to win at this point. I assume we'll see Absol coming, but we do see Hypnotoxic Laser, which is kind of confusing. Absol will finish off Deoxys EX, and then I would have to Plasma Gale it with Lugia, and I don't really see how I can deal with the Darkrai after that, since I think actually there's a Float Stone that goes on there. My opponent's playing a lot of cards, and we see the random receiver, and I saw exactly what he's going for. Silver Mirror would have been pretty much game over if my opponent had drawn it. Silver Mirror would have pretty much locked me down at this point. I don't have the resources to power up Mewtwo in time, and I probably would have lost to just Absol using Mind Jack. So I'm pretty fortunate that my opponent was not able to get that Silver Mirror anytime throughout the course of this game. And now he's only got 4 cards. Now if he does attack with Absol here, takes a knockout on Deoxys, I would just Plasma Gale and then have a Muscle Band to knock out the other Darkrai and win. So all of a sudden, I gotta say, things have turned around, and I'm not really sure how this happened. I'm going to take this opportunity to retreat my Deoxys EX, and got a Prism Energy here we can put somewhere. We'll put it on that Mewtwo EX on the bench, and let's just Raiden Knuckle for 30 and get some energy onto a different Pokemon. Maybe we'll power up the other Lugia EX since it does not have much damage on it. But we're at 2 prizes to 3, and I must admit I am extremely confused as to how this game got to where it is right now. I was fully expecting to lose after that Laser and the Snorlax fiasco, but this deck is actually pretty resilient sometimes with all these big HP attackers, and you're never really out of a game until it's completely over. I have to say that about these Plasma decks. They do have a lot of comeback potential. And boy, my opponent attaches an energy to that Darkrai, takes another 20 from Frozen City. So I think Frozen City has been the MVP of this game. My opponent's down to 1 card. I don't really see a way for him to win anytime soon, and he's going to pass. I draw the Muscle Band, and we put that Muscle Band on Lugia EX and get a big Plasma Gale for 140 and take the last 2 prizes and somehow win this game against this Darkrai Garbodor deck. I really can't explain what happened here. I am very confused as to how I won, but hey, maybe these cards are just so good that they can win in even the worst looking situations. So I would expect these Team Plasma decks to certainly be popular at the upcoming state championships. They're just too powerful not to be, especially with Muscle Bands. So either get ready for Team Plasma decks at state championships or get ready to play them. It's one or the other. Play them or try to beat them. This deck is the real deal. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will certainly have some more content for you soon. I am Pooka from the Top Cut, and I will see you guys next time.